bit of a minutes disaster from our December meeting, as we didn't have Jan, who was the key to all things scribable and legitimately keeping track here. But Paul, Crystal, and I have used our notes, and Crystal takes copious notes. I used my remarks, and Paul takes notes. So we used our notes to cobble back together the minutes, and I read them, and I think they pretty much represent what we accomplished. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes? Tom?
Yeah, I'm a little disturbed by this new business section.
I can't hear you.
Sorry, I have a cold.
Okay.
I'm a little disturbed by this new business section that suggests that somehow that the mayor and I, as ex officio members, were somehow implicit in the failure of the JLE project. And furthermore, that you are suddenly interested in ongoing work with the city, which you have never displayed before. So I'm kind of curious how this came up and why.
Well, if you remember, you were the person who brought the John L. Edwards project to our
Of course I
attention.
remember.
And you remember that we worked with you on that. That would be collaborating with the city right there
Mm-hmm.
throughout the whole thing. I guess I was a little bit disturbed at the meeting that we had, the last meeting where we made the decision to not move forward with the project, buying the school. I was disappointed is the word, that you and John Kamal weren't here.
Why?
Because you're ex officio members, it's an important building to the city. It's a collaborative effort for all of us to try to bring that building
What would
back.
have our presence done? I
I don't know.
I was in transit, as I told you.
No, I knew. Anyway, I was just disappointed.
Well, then why? Well, you're disappointed. I'm not sure why that should make you start having a conversation about kicking us off the board.
Well, I'm not kicking off the board. I'd like to start having
Oh,
a
you
conversation with you and with Kamal to see if you feel your presence on the board is still valuable. I would hope that you would think so, but Kamal hasn't been to a meeting in, 7 meetings.
Okay. Because
Maybe we could find out from you how we could serve you better.
you've never
Or serve
asked,
the city
so
better.
it's interesting that you put that in there. I can think of at least 6 projects that you could probably spend your money on at this point that would be of great service to the city, but you never asked, so.
Well, I'd like to think we could collaborate. I mean, it shouldn't be me raising my hand saying, what can I do for you?
I vote for a clean slate. We're asking,
What does that mean?
let's move forward. Spending a lot of time on bath ends is not good.
I agree.
I don't agree.
Okay.
It's a tendency for this board to rewrite history constantly.
I don't know about that,
Excuse
Tom, that's
me.
not fair.
It's not fair?
It's not
It's not fair, is that your opinion, it's not fair?
I don't think. Is this the annual airing of grievances?
I guess so.
Or is
I
it
guess
the
so.
actual work? Because
I
I
guess so.
actually have a business
This
here on
is
that.
Yeah, we do.
Which is funny that you mentioned that, because another grievance is that it's come to my attention recently that a certain member of this board has been trolling my wife on social media. This is an outrage. I don't care what anybody says about me, because I'm an elected official. But this apparently went on, and she had nothing to do with it. Meanwhile, now I hear that the same person is a source saying that we're moving from Hudson. What is going on here? I mean,
I don't
and you're
know.
telling me I should just erase this?
I don't know what it is. Who's doing the trolling, Tom?
He's talking about me,
Of course.
of course.
Oh.
Well, I'd like to think you could work that out separately
No.
as individuals.
I don't read gossips. despite what you may
Well, then how do you know?
think. More than one person has told me.
Okay, all right.
The other thing
So
too.
that's really hilarious.
We've all got
Fucking
thick
hilarious.
skins here.
Yeah.
Let's,
Okay, I have an agenda here.
I think we need to have thicker skins.
I have very thick skin, but I don't like someone attacking my wife out of the blue. I have
Nobody
nothing.
attacked anybody.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
You kept addressing.
Either
I'm
you
gonna
read
leave
it or
this
you
alone.
don't. Either
Do
there
I
was an
have-
attack or there wasn't. Either you're right or you're wrong. But as usual, you're wrong. What was being complained about here last month, quite frankly, was the fact that neither you or the mayor come with any regularity, participate with any kind of clarity or equanimity. Everything is political with you. It's pathetic. There's the door. If you just want to air your grievances, go outside. I'm sure there are people who care. And here we do work.
I don't really.
You're
see
not
it.
familiar with the concept. I realize that, but if you stick around, maybe
Okay,
you'll
okay,
learn
okay,
something.
no,
We're
no,
going
okay,
off
please
track,
stop, please stop.
We are.
Please stop.
This is
Let's-
generating.
let's go back to the minutes. I wanna make a motion to approve the minutes, December minutes as published. Is there a motion?
With comments noted.
With
Yes,
comments
I-
noted, is there a motion? You
I make a
first,
motion.
second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes stand as approved, rectified. Okay, thank you, Paul, Crystal, and Jan for helping with that. Beginning a new year means that Phil and UHY, our auditors, are working hard on the audit, which we will review at our annual meeting in March. We're preparing our New York State Authorities Budget Office, which is required filing with our consultant Julie Marshall, who did it for us last year and has been our a real help with the ABO filing in Paris. The annual meeting is March 24th, so put that in your calendars. We'll be electing officers for the executive committee, and we will be, if any of you want to run for those positions, please let me know. I'd like to hear from you. That would be great.
March 25th or 24th,
24th, sorry.
Monday.
I know, is it the 25th? It's Tuesday.
Tuesday's the 25th.
Yes, the 25th, Tuesday, the usual Tuesday. The offices are president, VP, secretary, and treasurer, and, and we will be losing 4 valuable board members at that meeting. After that meeting, that will be their last meeting, which we'll be sorry to say goodbye to them, but we will be grateful for all that they did for us. Thank you.
Did you name the board members who were losing?
Martha, Seth, and Paul Colarusso. And I'm blanking on who the other one is. I don't remember. I'll have to get credit to you. What?
Not Chris.
No, not Kristen. I'll fill you in on that. Sorry. It's a longer than usual meeting, so plan your schedules accordingly. It's a regular March meeting, but then it's the annual meeting, which the UHY people present the audit, and we review our works over the course of the last year and evaluate our future. If there's any questions on that before the meeting, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help you understand what we'll be doing. As you all know, we completed our intensive work on the John L. Lewis School. We'll be taking advantage of some of our learning from that process to work on projects going forward. Our work brought attention to the school district asset, and we see that there's greater attention from developers now, and some who have reached out directly to me who are looking to be involved with finding out more about what it could be in the future. It's extremely valuable building. We think we still have big hopes that it could be used for the many uses that we were evaluating it for: childcare, the youth department, city government, and educational uses. We know a great deal more about the childcare need in Hudson, and we will continue to see how we can improve this vital service to Hudson's working families. That's going to be an ongoing part of our work going forward, I think. Yeah, peach ram, thank you. But there are so many things needing attention in Hudson that we have to be careful how we focus our time and money and our effort. To that end, we'll be asking you later in this meeting to think about some projects that Hudson might need, just share them casually with us at this moment. And then after the meeting, if you would be thinking about that going forward, I welcome, any ideas that you can present. Once we have a list of ideas on how we could be helpful within our mission, the Hudson Board will review them using a rubric with evaluations of time, project importance, financial cost, and the number of people impacted, and any other criteria that the board feels we should be putting on these projects before we decide where to focus. Phil has been working on a rubric that we could apply to this kind of thinking, and we should be sharing that with you at the February board meeting. Let's see. I envision that we'll be reviewing projects probably on the February board meeting and then again at the March meeting. But before we start, I want to share some statistics and facts from the state census and the New York State report done in 2023 by a research firm, Lightcast, with the most recent review of Columbia County. And this isn't meant for you to go away with the actual stats in your head. It's just to share with you the general landscape today, and I can circulate this if you wish afterwards, who we are. Remember, this is Columbia County, not Hudson. There's 9,878 millennials between the ages of 25 and 39. We're below the national average of 12,287 in a community of this size. There's 26,500 retired or retiring soon, 55 plus average people living here. And the national average is 18,000, so we're below that. We're above that. 9,000 people are of racial background diversity. The national average is 25,000, so we're below that. And there are 3,522 veterans, slightly above the national average of 3,100. Jobs, the county has 24,880 jobs. And from 2018 to 23, jobs declined by 2.6%. But they are projected to grow between now and 2028. What this report does not take into consideration, however, is the extremely enthusiastic numbers of people who have come here to work remotely, 2 of whom I'm looking at. And 3 of whom I'm looking at right there. So I would imagine in future reports, the people who work remotely from Hudson and Columbia County will be part of this report, I would hope. The 4 top industries are government, healthcare, and social assistance, retail, trade, food services. The next 4 are construction, manufacturing, agriculture, and forestry. The top growing industries are professional, scientific, and technical services, arts, entertainment, recreation, construction, and lodging and food service. And what industries employ the most people? Agriculture is the number 1. Arts, entertainment, and recreation are number 2. Healthcare and social assistance, construction, retail, food services. The top industry earning jobs are government, finance and insurance, professional, technical, and scientific services, and wholesale trade. The bottom 4 categories are lodging and food services, arts and entertainment, recreation, educational service, and retail. And the sad fact of that is that those businesses are all really in Hudson in this report. So those are our businesses at the moment. The fields with the highest earnings are legal, architecture, engineering, computer, and they aren't even on that list from the top down. The lowest earning fields are farming, building and grounds management, food prep, food service, sales, retail, and transportation and moving material moving. The top employing companies in Columbia County are Columbia Memorial, number 1, Taconic Biosciences, the Hudson City School District, New York State, Columbia Memorial Health Services, Albany Med, and Columbia Green Community College and the State University of New York.
Taconic Bioservices is
Number
still
2.
in the county?
The rat farm.
Yeah, where?
German.
They still have the rat farm?
Mhm. It's big.
I've been.
The business sizes, there are 1,500 companies with 1 to 4 employees, and there's 800 companies with 10 to 19 employees. There's 70 companies with 50 to 99 employees, 4 companies with 250 to 500, and 1 company with 500, which is the hospital. The top growing occupations are business and financial, arts, design, entertainment, and media, management, physical and social sciences, food prep, and computer and math, construction, and legal. And the educational pipeline, Columbia Green Community College in 2023 had 223 graduates. The highest share of these graduates come from general studies, associate registered nursing, humanities, and humanistic studies. The enrollment in that school has declined in the last 5 years, and in our conversations with Carly Drummer about the John L. Edwards campus, she shared with us that the school has been striving to revise the programs to increase enrollment and provide more kinds of certifications for job readiness. So that's a strong area I think we could make an impact in. The most in-demand specialized skills in the county are nursing, protected health information, medication administration, nursing, clinical nursing, computerized physician orders, emergency medicine, medical prescription, occupational industries, and patient care management. So it's kind of a hard to fathom snapshot in a way. What it looks like is that from a population and economic perspective, of course, it's 2 years old, so there's lots of room for growth, I would say. Most of the stats for Hudson have to do with the hospital, county government, city government, arts, entertainment, food services, lodging, and retail. So areas that could use a heavy influx of help, I would say. It's interesting to me that there's no real big digital business or big sort of, big business that we would be able to support, like for Vapor Trail, that giant building out there.
Would it be, because I just heard it, but you were able to read it, would it be correct to assume that Hudson's thriving in the lower paying jobs, but we're weak in the higher income earning professions?
I would have, I took that away.
Study
Yeah.
shows.
Yeah.
Do you think the study's not accurate?
No.
Or because it's 2 years old, you don't think it's reflective?
Well, does it encompass self-employed?
Well, it encompasses, I'm not sure, because you can't tell, it doesn't state that.
Right.
But I think some of these companies are self-employed, I would guess. But what I think it is missing is all the people that live here, shop here, eat here, and work remotely.
The gig economy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and, having been to one or two gig events over at the workspace, there's a lot of people doing that here now, so.
You don't think that's captured in like the
I don't think so.
technical?
Well, maybe, I don't know.
It felt like they were missing a lot. The county is different from Hudson, for starters. And I think the observation that we're two different economies, depending on who you are and where you're at. In this world right now, you can make pretty easily without too much data. The question for us in terms of projects going forward is, I think, balancing where we've been focused on for the past year with JLE, which is concentrating on enablement of giving people at least an opportunity or access to different kinds of work through things like education, childcare, and so on, which enables the workforce, and the degree to which we focus on specific aspects of the labor market and support and build there. And I think we should do both, but we'll get to that, I think, in the next meeting.
Thank you. Okay, so finally, one of our last year we had business roundtables, which we call Let's Talk Business, and we invited people to come in and speak to people in Hudson, anyone who wanted to attend. One of them was the impact of tourism on local economies. The gentleman who's the chair of the New York State Industry Tourism Association came and spoke to the group, and he brought some powerful statistics with him. That tourism, for one, tourism has grown in New York State to be the third largest private sector industry, generating $78.5 billion in direct sales. This is the equivalent of $1,320 per New York State household. Tourism and the Empire State Development Report for Columbia County from 2022 post-pandemic says that Columbia County has had $237 million from visitors. Of that, 58 million was lodging, 56 million was food and beverage, 33 million was retail goods and services, 21 million was local transportation, and 20 million was recreation. 48 million of that was second homes, the second home economy. This economy delivered 13 million in county tax revenue and 106 million in local employment income, which are pretty powerful. He also stressed that tourism should not be the goal, but a means to a great sustainable economy, and that if it's done right, it drives local job creation, small business success, community revitalization, and it increases local and state tax revenues, and improves the standard of living for the people who live in the town. The ultimate customer of tourism is the residents, not the visitors. So I know tourism, hospitality and tourism is a big part of our economy in Hudson. And I think, it's sometimes viewed as the enemy. to the town. And I think that we should be working this year on finding a way to promote the tourism money, promote the way for us to become more successful in the businesses that are here that serve the tourist economy, but also find a way to grow it in a way that doesn't destroy the nature and character of the town that we love. So be thinking about that aspect too. So there's a lot of ideas to open a conversation with, but I think it's a beginning of the year, a good time for us to do that. And I'm going to turn it over to Phil for the treasurer's report.
On just a high level, I think you all know that the $115,000 escrow was very quickly returned, and we moved that on to our broker colleagues to look at different ways to invest in it. We had a pretty interesting conversation with them about the market. It certainly was my feeling that in the Trump environment, there was potential for lots of things happening, but one of the things fairly clear is that interest rates are declining. You all know that we're very heavily in the bond market, and in hindsight, we did extraordinarily well, because we would not, if we entered that market now, get the same kind of returns. So we tasked our guys to look at other options in addition to bonds, or to augment our bond positions to maintain the level of return that we've come to expect, which is 5% or better, and it's going to tick up a little bit as some of the stuff matures. We get the benefit of having purchased the bonds at a low price. So that's sort of a macro level. The biggest single change then in our position is not in the bucks, but where they're residing, and we'll have more to report on a strategy for taking advantage or defending ourselves in the economy as it changes going forward. Tom had asked me to take a look at what we spent specifically on the JLE work. If you look at the bottom of the statement of activity,
Is it page 2?
yeah, take a look at it'll say statement of activity, and there's a small type list underneath at the bottom of the page.
It's on the other page.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Okay.
Can you watch that, Jan?
Yeah.
Basically, since I sit next to Nick, I'm gonna blame him for the fact that I'm having trouble seeing out of my left eye, because he's having trouble seeing out of one of the. Yeah, okay.
Is this right?
So I obviously got something.
So the blind are leading the blind?
Yes.
Yes, as always.
Oh, Seth, you
I
should
got,
wordsmith.
but that was pretty good. So I just want to go through this because we had simply put together all professional fees. Some of them are JLE, but some of them are not. For example, bottom up, 14 grand for UHY has little or nothing to do with JLE. That's their audit expense and continuing support. Similarly, we've got to have Susan on the team, or we'd be in trouble. So the 5 grand or so spent on Susan has very little or nothing to do with JLE. Jess was and is our grant writer, but she does a lot more than that. She's really an excellent writer, an excellent researcher, and analyst. So out of that 34 grand, I'd say about 2/3 was focused on the grant applications for the state, and about 1/3 was general writing, letters, position papers, thinking, et cetera, to which he contributed much.
to my life, to Chris, and so on as we reach out to communicate. From the top down, you can see that a lot of these stuff is very much JLE. Ambient, environmental, Crawford, Belcourt, Bill Weber, that $200 I think was the HVAC here, Chip Bowl and Company. Denham Wolf was 45 grand. I would say that the first meeting, 15 grand worth was about structuring our thinking, looking at examples of how to build a financial model for a project of this scale, and getting benchmarks or advice from them on other nonprofits and folks who've tried to do public projects. So I would say, 30 out of 35. Basically, in rough numbers, about 120 grand. One could say was very much associated with JLE, and then depending on how you want to think about that, there is a case to say that we didn't do the project, so it's gone. There's also a case to say that we were beginners in some of this stuff. We now have a credible identity and filing access with a bunch of pieces of the state that required a fair amount of work, et cetera. So net, I think we're ahead, but there's no question. Whatever number you want to pick for whatever case you make, we put a lot of money into JLE.
I would comment, I don't think it's a lack of experience that is why we aren't doing the project. I think through the due diligence, the project revealed itself to not be viable.
100%.
And so there's not a professional developer or professional architect or engineer that would have known that without going through the due diligence period of having professional cost estimators, having the professional engineers come in, and having the ambient environmental come in. So no one would have known until you unfortunately put up that money. And that's why developers lose money and make money. Sometimes they swing and they succeed, and sometimes they don't.
What I meant to say, and said pretty sloppy, was that we did pick up some intellectual capital and some structural functional tools in terms of working with the state that I think are going to be quite durable. But you're absolutely right. If I wasn't clear, it was very much about doing the due diligence with the best people we could find and finding what we found.
Yeah, and I don't mean to parse your language. I just want the final narrative to not be that.
You're absolutely right.
We went into this with our eyes open too. We were prepared from day one, if necessary, to step away.
Which is why we had the 6-month due diligence
Correct, the
period.
due diligence period. The other thing too is that the organization that we are, we have a specific structure. Perhaps an independent without our strictures on the outside might have been able to take this project and gutted it out. Our organization, perhaps not so much. And who we have, and particularly also too, the various entities that we wanted to bring in to talk to and to partner with us, or at least collaborate with us. But it was, I personally, I've always wanted to brass it out on this, but that's a different, for a different day. It still has, I think, merit and potential. There's no question about it.
I mean, and this effort, our effort did move it along.
Move it
from
along
when it was sort of
dramatically.
languishing to something that, now it is getting more attention, and they have shown it to several different developers, and people are calling me as developers to see it. So I think that it moves on, and we're not certainly finished
Right.
with it because it's an important part of Hudson.
True that.
Do that, okay. Anything else you want to say?
No, I'm going to say I'm going to miss Martha.
As part of the financial report.
No, it's okay,
And
Seth.
Seb.
We miss you.
Wait, now, Phil, come on. you guys, come on, let's get this.
It is part of the financial report,
Are you?
because Martha was the most likely person to give me a hard time. And often did it offline, for which I'm very grateful. She pushed too hard on embarrassing me, and
Kept you on track.
that's my summary thought. If there are no further questions or comments, I would ask that financial statements be approved.
Motion,
I
Britt,
motion.
second, Phil, Paul, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. So with that, there's just a tiny update on John L. Edwards, and that is that the school board has started showing the building again. If you remember, we left it with them that if they got back to us after their January meeting and let us know what they'd like to collaborate on grant writing, we would be willing to do that. I haven't heard from them. I was sick the day of the board meeting, so I didn't make it to that, but I'm following up with Dr. Pennyman to see if there's any resolution on their interest in continuing to do that. We would have to design how that would work if they're interested. That's how we left it. How we would collaborate, how we would write the grants, how we would finance the grant writing, and what grants we would go after. So we have a pretty good idea what grants are available for the kind of remediation this building needs, because we were looking at that. But I'm not sure that they're of a mind to do that. It seems like they would prefer just to sell it. They do now have the ambient report, though. They own that report. We gave them a copy of the report. So that's part of their reveal when they show the building. They have to reveal the situation. So it's a very hard building to sell at this point. It would be a really good thing to remediate it, move towards that. So we'll see how the next months play out in the showings and what interest they get. And of course, we hope that someone will step up and take the building, do something good with it.
Or that the board would actually become active in that and show an interest and not go to sleep at the wheel, which frankly,
Is that a technical term, sleep at the wheel?
well,
Um,
it sure
I
is
think-
for them.
I think
It just seems likely that they're gonna find a sophisticated purchaser for that building, because the net present of that property is negative.
Well, two developers that they love that building. They loved it for a long time. They would like to be involved with it, and Britt's reaching out to one that we know
Yes, I
might
will
be good.
email that now.
And one of the two that I talked to said that the school district should give it to the developer for $1 and let them move forward to develop it. But
Yeah.
I don't see that happening.
They go on the hook for the total cost of remediation. That's what they get for their $1. I mean, that's why I really feel it's the school district's obligation to deal with this one way or the other. It's not gonna get less expensive to remediate.
Or to tear it down, it's
You
more
gotta
expensive.
remediate it first.
It's more expensive.
Demolition.
I mean,
So
ambient
unfortunate.
casually estimated $8 million to tear it down.
Is that including remediation?
That's,
Yeah,
that
that includes the whole.
that
Four
was-
and four. They're not as
repurpose all
careful.
materials
They're tearing it down.
appropriately, yeah. Okay, so that's that. Any questions on John Elliott? Any other ideas on that anyone wants to share?
I wish somebody luck.
Great, yeah. Raise your paddle. Okay, new business, future projects and the evaluation rubric. I thought it would be interesting for us to just talk casually here as board members about any ideas that we have about things that we would like to focus on in Hudson, things that have popped into your head. You know, our mission is really about economic development and jobs, but it also includes ending on the quality of life and the nature of making a good community in Hudson. So there are lots of things that have popped up over the year. Sidewalks is certainly a huge one. Childcare is still, we think, right within our mission and our sweet spot. It helps working families have a place to take their kids for daycare so they can work successfully without being out of work a lot. Any other ideas that have come to mind? The hospital, to me, when I was looking at that, the hospital is a really big part of our community. And and we did engage them to see if they would be interested in going into the John L. Edwards building in some way. a vaccination situation, baby testing, any kind of, some, not big service, but, and they were interested in the daycare most of all. And idea, maybe we need to engage with them a little more to find out what their needs are as they're now Albany Med. And what are they focusing on? They're focusing more on emergency medicine and less on inpatient work, although three of my friends have been in there recently and they came out feeling better. The hospital and any other ideas that you've had along the way that you would like to see us focus on. Britt did the tree event, yes.
I mean, I'm wondering if the hospital has empty space that could be used for daycare. I know that they don't have an interest in providing daycare. They were very explicit in that.
Yeah.
But if they would, sublet that space to a provider, that might make.
Remember they
Some
did
have no
bring
idea.
up in the call with them that they have outbuildings where they have services that they give pediatrics, I don't know what they all are, but they're around town, and maybe even if there's room in the hospital, they could consolidate one of those and use one of their freestanding buildings for daycare.
Daycare.
Yeah, but that's a good.
The daycare would have to be on the first floor.
Yes, it does.
They actually gave up one of their freestanding buildings that was daycare.
Yeah.
So they're going in the opposite direction.
Thank you, Tom.
Not just a little history in case you don't remember.
No, I remember.
Excuse me.
Which is unfortunate.
What? Yeah, they gave up some services that, along the way that people really miss too, so.
It is disturbing that you have a business that depends a lot on a female workforce, that you have night shifts that are absolutely necessary to deliver service, and you eliminate daycare.
Well, and I don't know what their financial equation is, but I know from talking to, Brittany Scally, who's she's the human resource person for the hospital, that the money, that the hospital is operating on a fringe because it's so much about what they get back, what they get reimbursed in insurance and payments that way. So they cut their services in places that maybe we would prefer for our economic health of a town, we would prefer the hospital to provide those services.
For them, it's a cost center.
It's the cost of it, and so they may have cut their childcare component out completely because of that. They cut out their birthing center because of that, and, the cost to do that. And the reimbursement equation wasn't right. So maybe we could understand more about what their financial problems are, because a hospital is a really important part of keeping a healthy town.
Is that circular because of low birth rate, because of the age gap, and because of the?
They were a go-to
They
for
were.
the longest
Yeah, they
time. Women were,
choosing to
the,
work there.
Northern Duchess picked the slack up at New Garden. But for the longest time, Northern Duchess, I should say the people in Northern Duchess, came up here to Hudson because of what do they call the Catskill, there was a name for the Catskill birthing, Catskill neonatal, whatever it was, but it was really considered to be, very important and very successful. And now they're gone.
Yeah.
So you gotta go someplace else.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell that is.
Any other ideas of the hospital that wanna share? Think about it. Okay, we are talking in the rubric, you maybe wanna talk about the rubric a little bit. We're talking about ways to think about ideas which have to do with what's Hudson really good at, what do we like about Hudson, what's really working here? What would we like to be better at? What are the areas and what businesses do we feel could be better here? What parts of our community could we support with more economic assistance or with more strategic thinking to help grow their businesses? And then physical things that would make it better for businesses that are here in our hospitality and visitor economy. And that's how the sidewalk conversation always comes in, because people are always falling and hitting their heads.
It's a way of
Yeah.
keeping the elderly population down.
On the
over
ground.
a period of time,
On the
because you can take out some every year.
Branded padded headbands.
Well, since you're looking for projects, the sidewalk, district is not funded yet. And could use seed money.
What is the sidewalk district? Can you explain that to the board?
There's the proposal where the city will, continue to improve sidewalks with a general fund, a dedicated infrastructure fund, which is how it's not a tax. Excuse me. And they've been working on it for a year now to get it up and running. And eventually it'll be a rotating fund that allows the city to continually renovate sidewalks throughout the city rather than making each individual, which is, right now in the code, each individual household has to take care of their sidewalk, and that of course is unfeasible for many people. So this is a way to spread it and to get it done. Now, unfortunately, it's not funded yet, but it could use seed money, because with that seed money, instead of borrowing from the general fund, which is one of the reasons this year's budget is higher, because a lot of it involves borrowing from the general fund. It's not actually expenditures, it'll all come back eventually. This project could easily use some seed money,
And what,
whether by loan or by, it would save us a lot of money.
and is there an estimate for that, what the seed money should be, what it could be?
We could ask, I mean, I think it's about $500,000 to get started easily. And of course, as you notice down here, the DRI took care of sort of the first aspect of it. We've also funded all the corners to make them ADA compliant.
Okay, who's the keeper of the information on that?
Well, there's
Is
a
that
group.
Rob Perry?
No, he's on the board, but
Okay.
it's Justin Weaver, Dave Marston,
Dave,
Gary Kernhagen, George Connor, and I think that may be it.
okay.
Would the code also change if this program gets enacted?
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah, it never worked, and previous administrations never enforced it. And then, of course, you may or may not know about how we were under a mandate from the Department of Justice to get this done for the sidewalks in the city.
Okay,
Is
That's
it
good.
something that grant money would help or no?
We've tried endlessly to get grants for
And you
this.
just can't, okay. I was gonna say, because is that something we could see it as well, you know, like trying to get, but if we try.
No, we've tried with
Have you-
good grant.
Have you partnered it with a climate change component of trees and biosphere?
They've talked about it, yeah.
But did they apply grants
Need a good
with that
lawsuit.
element? Because that would be how you would get the grants.
you know,
I'm not sure. You'd have to ask.
Yeah, because I think that's like
Just need a
the,
good lawsuit.
Could help.
Finding the angles, yeah.
that's the, yeah, they're not
We can
gonna
do a lot,
fund
because, you know,
permeable sidewalks.
Right, but the sidewalks, you know, a lot of the bioswales aren't doable within the city, given the nature of some of the sidewalks. But that's definitely a possibility. And if you're interested, you should, they meet monthly.
okay, I'm putting that on the list.
So Chris, did you want me to respond to what you were saying before?
Yes, that would be fine,
Okay.
that would be good.
What I'm trying to do, and I'm gonna recruit a couple people to join me, but I have a decent start at it. The thought is this: there are actually so many things that we could and should participate in that would be helpful, either directly or indirectly, to job creation or quality of life, et cetera, that I figure there are enough folks here with ideas that y'all don't need me to do that. What I can do, or am gonna try to do, is create a vetting process or consideration set so that we can take ideas and, in as fair a way as possible, make a determination on the obvious parameters. How much does it cost? How will we find funding for it? What is the expected impact on the community? Are there other folks working in this space who would make excellent collaborative partners? So that sometimes we lead and sometimes we follow. and sometimes we support. How do we participate in communications, which is a whole other area, but I think it's a big component to success. We should talk about that. And last but not least, how do we think about the money we've got in the bank, if you will, or at the brokerage firm? Is it money that we want to push out into the active market as quickly as possible? Is it money that we wish to retain a sufficient amount of to continue operations, even though we don't have an ED and we don't have extraordinary expenses? We have expenses. What's the sustainability issue for HDC going forward? One of the lessons I think I learned from Lee, and there were many, is having $2.7 million is an attractive and exciting number for a person. Having $2.7 million and trying to solve serious problems in a community like Hudson, it ain't much. So I'm going to create a structure for discussing that, and that's my best shot, and see if it's helpful.
Thank you. I think that'll be helpful. Okay. Any other? So I'm gonna introduce two people that I should have introduced at the beginning. Sitting next to you is Andrew Trudeau. He's a prospective board member. He's, the members of the board nominating committee, et cetera, have met with him. And we invited him to join us here today. And Kyle Coffey is sitting there. He's another prospective member of the board, and he's, both of these gentlemen work in Hudson remotely, but they also go to New York City occasionally for business. Andrew's been he grew up in the building business. His father was a builder, so he knows that work. However, he graduated from NYU, Violet. There's 3 Violets in a row.
Me too.
Did you know?
There you go.
Yeah.
Old New York
And,
University.
Yeah, and thank you. And,
No one ever sang that.
Big no school spirit.
And is involved in researching for big clients, what they should be doing with their branding and their business building efforts. So he has a huge research, branding, commercial, corporate background. But he's also a real estate developer in his own right, and he renovated his house. He kept it standing basically and got it back. And is going to be building 2 houses on the lot next door. You have a dog. He's a beautiful dog. So that's how it happened. Yeah. I've never met his wife, but I'm sure she's lovely. Kyle is a MasterCard executive. His background is in commercial banking, and he has a lot of corporate experience at MasterCard, one of the 15 biggest companies in the world, I think, yeah. And so we're lucky to have them interested in the civicness of what we do here, and in getting more involved in Hudson and making Hudson the place that they live, a nice town. So I thank you both for coming. Thank you very much.
Christine, I have an objection.
You have an objection?
Yes, these guys are too good looking. If you look at John Friedman, Nick, and myself, by comparison, we look like trash.
Oh, those glasses, those things.
I agree. Yeah.
Just
Don't sell
saying.
yourself short.
Sorry, Bill. Sorry, Bill. And then on the end here is Kelsey Otten. She's here as an auditing potential board member. Kelsey is a real estate, I don't have your whole background.
All good.
It's all good.
I'm an associate broker with Compass. I'm born and raised in Hudson, so I also spent some time in the city, but came home. My family's been here forever. What else? I also own a property management company, so kind of dovetails with some of the talk about tourism and those like secondary economies that we were mentioning earlier. But yeah, born and raised here, live here.
Here.
Thanks.
So, the board terms, the 4 people are stepping off the board, and we're gonna miss you. It is in the past, sometimes people step off for a year, and then they can join back on if they wish to. So, and we will certainly be using you or tapping into your ideas if we need, certainly special help along the way after you've stepped down. So I just wanna, you're not stepping down yet, I'm not gonna thank you yet, but I'll thank you, in March. So thank you. The annual meeting is March 25th. Phil, you want to talk about what your work for UHY for the board meeting and any issues having to do with the audit so far? No.
No, it's the usual, and with the good news is we've worked with them a couple years now, as has Susan Van Tassel. So far it's going extremely smoothly.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. Any other comments or questions from board members or non-board members? Hello?
Yeah, before I was cut off earlier, I wanted to also raise the reason that I missed the meeting in November was I noticed the day of the meeting that suddenly was listed a presentation by a group that is proposing a charter revision. What I didn't understand was how that in any way was part of HDC's agenda.
They asked to make a presentation to our board because they feel that the board is business driven and economic growth driven. And they felt that they wanted to share what their thinking was having to do with the charter change with board members, and there was no reason to not let them present to us, so we let them present.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a reason.
Okay, any other questions? Anything? All right, so the next meeting will be February 27th at noon in this room. And because it's January, there's pizza and salad, which is, that we said that all the time, but because everybody use a little more calories, help yourself. The water is outside cooling, so if somebody can help me bring it in. With that said, can I have a motion to adjourn the January meeting?
Make that
Bill
motion.
first, second John, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
all.
Thank you all.
We lost $1,000. It's because you call for the jail.
Right.
I'm ready to go.